whether it was the government, the companies, the people of Washington State, she was there. Now, Mr. President,
so far. And yes, you're on it. Oh, you're level
help,
16.
I say to the American people, help is on the way.
Yes.
Big help. Quick help. I say to the American people, because Democrats insisted on making this bill better, we can now call it a bill that puts workers first, not corporations, that has a Marshall Plan for hospitals, and that has accountability, transparency, and watchdogs over much of the lending that is in this bill. Now, 6 days of subtle diplomacy, and here, in these mostly now empty corridors, we've shaped a bipartisan agreement on the largest rescue package in American history, which was sealed last night a few minutes after 1 in the morning, when Leader McConnell and I came to the floor to announce we had an agreement. It was not a moment of celebration, but rather one of necessity. Facing an unprecedented crisis, it was the duty of the Senate to produce bipartisan legislation to send an immediate infusion of resources to our public health systems, state and local governments, small business, and American workers. As I said from the start, Democrats had two main goals: a Marshall Plan for public health workers and hospitals on the front line, and putting workers first, not corporations. Had we not asked for the Republican Party to recognize us by not going forward on those first two votes, this bill would have been much worse. Our actions made it much better. Not everything we wanted, but much, much better. And we're proud as a caucus, and united as a caucus, of the job we have done to improve this legislation. Because after all, this legislation will be with us not for days, and not for weeks, not even for months, but probably for years. To improve this legislation was worth taking an extra day or two, improving it after the Republican leader just put it down without consulting us and tried to say take it or leave it. Now, like all compromises, this bill is far from perfect, but we believe the legislation, Democrats and Republicans, the bill is much better than when we started. We all came together to get this bill done. We worked in a bipartisan work, and here we are. Once the language is ready, Democrats are ready to speed up the consideration of the bill as much as possible. We believe that the legislation has been improved sufficiently to warrant its quick consideration and passage. I expect the Senate can get the job done in the new few hours. Now, the American people watching should know what is in this bill, which has undergone many revisions over the past 48 hours. Many of the programs and funding authorities that are being finalized as we speak will go to them directly, the American people, and could make the difference in the next few months between putting food on the table and going hungry, between surviving this period of unemployment and financial. So let me briefly, $200 billion fund to provide our health system with whatever it needs. It includes funding for personal protective equipment, testing supplies, a surge in our healthcare workforce, additional Medicare funding, research into coronavirus treatments, and more. The funding will literally act as a lifeline as the number of COVID-19 cases continues to climb. So as I said, a Marshall Plan for American medical system is now underway. Second, workers first. Millions of workers, through no fault of their own, are losing paychecks with no way to cover their daily expenses and monthly bills. Coming to their rescue is a program Democrats devised to boost unemployment insurance, paid for 4 months. These benefits will be much easier to access and will be expanded to include part-time, self-employed, freelancers, and gig economy workers. And the new program has a second. The first job of this program, get money into the pockets of people who are losing their jobs through no fault of their own, and it will come quickly and generously. But it has a second purpose. It will also allow companies to furlough workers so they can stay on as employees, so that when, God willing, this crisis abates, they can quickly resume work with their employer and businesses can reassemble. When this crisis is over, we don't want every worker who's losing their job to scatter to the winds, and so many good businesses, through no fault of their own, will fall apart. By keeping them on furlough, paying them, the businesses can reassemble quickly. This proposal, unemployment insurance on steroids, will be the greatest expansion of unemployment benefits in decades. A social safety net wide enough to catch the millions of American workers who became unemployed virtually overnight, woven with fibers strong enough to hold them through the worst of this crisis. As I said, we're going to pass unemployment insurance on steroids. Third, oversight, transparency, and accountability of all loans made to corporations. The Republican bill initially put the focus on rescuing industry and did not do enough to protect the hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of workers those industries employ. But as a result of our negotiations, Democrats have secured crucial worker protections throughout the bill as conditions to rescuing large companies, including incentives for businesses to keep workers on the payroll during the crisis. For the nearly 2 million airline employees, Democrats have also secured direct payroll payments to keep you on the job. Your collective bargaining rights will be protected, and airlines will not be allowed to spend any grant money on stock buybacks or CEO bonus pay for the life of the grant plus 1 year. Democrats also secured tough new requirements on federal grants and loans to any industry. No stock buybacks for the length of any loan provided by the Treasury plus 1 additional year. Restrictions on any increases to executive compensation. A requirement to protect collective bargaining agreements. Democrats